This is the second part of the Healthy Families presentation, dealing primarily with family assessment and family nursing practice. Now, in nursing practice, we often take different approaches to our work with families. In the first one, the family provides the context for our work with an individual member. So, for example, in this children's drawing, the nurse comes to visit with the child who's in bed, labeled me, and considering how the rest of the family influences that child's illness experience and healing. So, in a healthy family, the health of individual members must be considered, as well as the health of the family as a whole. In the family as client approach, the health of the whole family is our focus. So this is a classic example of a single mom with a new baby. We can't care for one without the others. We have to focus on the interactions between the two and how healthy that whole interaction or that whole parenting, mothering kind of interaction is. The final approach that I'd like to present is what I call kitchen table nursing. And this approach is about the interaction between the nurse and the family in terms of health promotion and illness care. Based on a multitude of evidence, we know that when the interaction is a partnership, families are more likely to follow a healthy path than if the nurse comes in as an expert and tells the family what to do. So when the family is a partner, the nurse first listens to what they already know and plans care with them that meets their needs and their lifestyle, something that is definitely realistic for them. So hence the family nursing practice is characterized by these following elements. The family defines itself, which means I can say this is a traditional family, this is a non-traditional family, looking at all of those different structures. But when I'm practicing with a family, it's who's in your family? And it can be anyone. It can be from the neighbors to people who are caregivers who are not necessarily related in biology or marriage. But that's who we work with, and we start with where they are and what their issues are. We work with them collectively in partnership. We adapt their interventions to their stage of development, and then particularly emphasize their strengths. In the process of family assessment, nurses use many different methods to take a systematic approach that explores those key aspects of the family's health, just like we take that systematic approach to the assessment of the health of an individual, like you do in your health assessment course. We use qualitative and quantitative instruments and methods. In quantitative, we'll use many different instruments. One could be the family management, family routines, looking at family stressors, and then also family functioning. And if you go back to part one of the presentation, you can see why those things are important to measure. Qualitative, we look at the genogram, which we looked at in the past in part one briefly. An ECOMAP, which you will do for your chapter 3 of the community notebook, and then the family health history. Genograms display pertinent information in a family tree format, shows members and their relationships over about 3 generations. And of course, we use standardized categories and formats to capture that information so that when we develop a genogram, the next person can look at that and know what that is based on the standardized kinds of formats that we use. It's a useful guide during the health interview to identify areas for further exploration. And you've learned about the genogram in your health assessment class, so I am not going to go any further into that. The ECOMAP is a visual depicting of family boundaries as interaction with specific entities in the community. This map provides rich information about those interactions, showing the nature of the relationships. Are the relationships between the family and this community nurturing? Do they produce stress? And then that direction of the energy flow between the family and the community. This is a tool to organize and present information in a holistic and integrated way. And again, you'll be completing one of those with your case study. Now look at this eco-map for our particular family of Sharon and Stanley and the children and Kuma. On first encounter, I'm struck by the number and complexity of their interactions with entities outside the family. No matter what those things are, it just, because it's visual, it strikes you, it gives you that information right away about how complex things are. If you look at the map more closely, you'll see that it's organized by color to indicate the type and formation of these interactions for each family member. And this helps to highlight where they intersect. So, for example, the girls have extended families from their own fathers. And also, because of their ages, they'll all attend different schools. But you'll see things where Sharon and the girls and Stanley all share a particular relationship with something. And again, when you're doing this, your eco-map for your chapter 3, this particular one is not a model. You're going to draw one based on some instructions that are for that particular chapter. So what is a family health history? It is a family's combination of shared genes, environment, behavior, and culture. And it shows about 3 generations of biological relatives. At the age of diagnosis of any disease, it shows that, and of course the age and cause of death for deceased family members. But it's a kind of genogram, and it focuses specifically on health risks, things that run in the family. So it's a useful tool for understanding these health risks and preventing disease in individuals and their close relatives. For effective health promotion and illness prevention, a family health history helps you know about what younger family members' health risks may be. And it's considered to be a form of screening, just like measurement of blood pressure and cholesterol. Now, risk factors are things that can increase your chance of having a health problem. Things like the environment, behaviors, lifestyle, and of course, genetics. So for Sharon, it's a little difficult in their family health history because she is adopted and has no information about her birth parents. So Kuma, her mother can't give her any information about her genetics, only about behaviors and environment. And she has difficulty giving any of that information to her daughters, only what she knows from her life specifically in terms of their genetic risk factors. Now, genomics is the study of all the genes in a person, as well as the interactions of those genes with each other and a person's environment. But really, all people are 99.9% identical in genetic makeup, but differences in that remaining 0.1% hold important clues about health and disease. That's why family health histories are so important to do to point us to where there are issues. So I'm going to refer you to this short video on family health history, a window to your health, to help explain the link to genomics a little better, but it's a very important link for you to understand. There is also another tool called the Family Health Portrait that you can look up online, and it is a way of doing your own family health history. It's a online program that was developed by the Surgeon General's office a few years ago. And certainly it is an important thing. They call family health history is Thanksgiving Day. That's Family Health History Day. So that's when a lot of families come together. So think about that when your family gets together the next time. But certainly take a look at the Family Health Portrait. We also assess the level of family stress, often using instruments that were listed on that slide above about assessment methods. Now, the purpose of the family system is to maintain stability through adaptation to internal and external stresses that are created by change, like change that you have throughout the family life cycle. Family stress is a systems-oriented concept where families develop a mix of internal and external coping styles to meet various stressful situations. So if you look at this, you can see that family stress occurs when current family coping skills, that mix of coping skills, are not sufficient to meet the demands of a new event or situation, and this can often create a crisis in the family. So if you look at internal coping styles, it's those things that family members do together to cope. And if you don't know what cognitive reappraisal or reframing is, look that up because it's a very important coping style. And then you can see that external coping styles have to do with what you see in that eco-map, right? Support from the extended family, what kind of professional support that they have. And of course, we talked a little before about family routines and rituals. So in addition to those internal and external boundaries, the family is organized in terms of these rules and roles. Every family has to work out such things as who cares for the kids, who does what work around the house, who makes decisions, who handles the money. And to function well, a family must have some clarity and agreement about those roles. However, the roles can't be so rigid and narrowly defined that there can't be changes. There are rules about communication, such as parents never argue in front of the children, or about how decisions are made, about bedtime, about eating dinner, everybody coming together to eat dinner at the same time. But when you get down to it, healthy families have the ability to adapt to situations. Therefore, they demonstrate flexibility in their leadership, relationship, rules, control, discipline, negotiation, and role sharing. They're balanced families. They have ability to allow family members to be independent and yet remain connected to the family as a whole. And this is known as family cohesion. So flexibility and cohesion are two of the things that are very characteristic of a healthy family. Often a non-healthy family we call dysfunctional families, but that particular word needs to go out of your lexicon. Families are neither all good or all bad. All families have both strengths and difficulties and have seeds of resilience and strengths upon which the nurse should work to build interventions with designs of action. So nurses should view family behavior on a continuum of the need for intervention. Families with strengths, functional families, and balanced families are terms often used to refer to healthy families as doing well. Now quickly talk just briefly about social and family policy challenges. And they're definitely part of a nurse's practice. Government actions that have a direct or indirect effect on families are called family policy. The range of social policy decisions that affect families is vast. However, there is no explicit national family policy in the United States. Most government policy indirectly affects families. The Family Medical Leave Act of 1993 is one type of positive family policy, allowing family members to take a defined employment leave without fear of losing their job. The Affordable Care Act of 2010 is intended to address other issues of interest to families that will hopefully address gaps in existing programs that have supported families, such as Social Security and temporary assistance for needy families. More recently, the Defense of Marriage Act has been challenged by the Supreme Court and then also in different states to look at whether we can consider same-sex partners and have them be married. So look that up if you haven't heard about what's going on with that recently. Now, nurses play a role in policy development and implementation, and families are affected by the rules and values of society. So let's go to the end here, which is about empowering families, which is what we do primarily. We have approaches for helping people and families assume a more active role in their health care, access and control over needed resources, decision-making and problem-solving abilities, and the ability to communicate and to obtain needed resources for families. So, based on our assessment, this is where we're trying to go. And that is the end of the Part 2 presentation.